So through my career interviewing people, not too many people ask questions in the end. And some people ask questions because they were told to make sure they ask questions in the end, right? Not because they want to ask questions in the end. And we can tell, we can sense that as we interview people. I know if you want to ask questions. I, myself, almost never ever hired someone who never asked me questions in the end, no matter how good they are. Because if you don't ask questions, you're not interested in this position, or your goal is different to me, right? Because when you ask, unless of course he's been asked those questions to people before me, and I'm like the last one who interviewed them, so I know exactly about this. But before that, if I'm the first guy who interviews, you're the first guy you see me, and then I'm interviewing you, and you don't ask me questions about the end of the interview, basically the interview is done to me. I immediately tell the engineers after me, you don't need to consider this person. Next, move next. The reason is, of course, depends on the position, and junior and senior. Senior is no forgive. Junior, I'll forgive them because they don't know better and they need to learn. But the idea is, questions at the end of the interview tells people why you looking for this job in this position. And the questions don't come from nowhere. The questions comes from all these preparations that we did. If you prepared the right way that we talked about, preparing the questions and the buzzwords and the job description and cover letter and everything and the customized resume, now you already have a lot of questions because you already have a lot of things you talked about. You mentioned in your resume. You want to know more about them. You want to talk. You want to ask and get more information. What's the team? How's the environment? What's this technology you're using? What's the next technology you want to do? What's the next 1 year from this work for this position? Is this position going to go? What's the goal? And so on. There are so many. And you don't need to ask all of them. One or two, just to get to know more ideas and understand more from the interviewer. So prepare questions to ask at the end of the interview, for every interview that you do on phone screening or the Zoom. Okay? Remember, we talked about this a minute. Your goal is what? To set a face-to-face or on-site interview with them. Now, nowadays it's different. Nowadays, everything almost is Zoom and online, right? This was really applicable before, when we really used to go. The goal of your call, not to get hired. They're not going to hire over the phone, right? They're not going to give an offer over the phone. Your goal from this phone call is to set the face-to-face interview. That's your goal. You can sell yourself later in the interview. You can get more information later. But your goal right now, get that face-to-face or the next stage of the interview. That's your goal. Now with the Zoom and with the last couple of years, it kind of shifted a bit. People start, since everything's going to be Zoom, everything's online. So, this don't apply much. But still, it's going to move forward in your interview process, basically. Okay? So this is during the phone interview or the Zoom interview right now, these days. Now, once you're done, let's say you did the Zoom interview, the phone interview, everything's good, they liked you, you're good to go, you asked the questions, everything's fine. Now you want to move to the next side. They told you, okay, come on in, or let's do the next stage, where you're going to meet all our engineers, or 3 of us right now, or we're going to be longer engineers. We used to be in person, now they do it different stages on Zoom or online, same process, same thing. So what do you do to prepare to that? Now that was a different story. Now you need to go to meet them and to actually talk about them, talk to them. I'm sorry. So interview preparation for meeting them is to do your homework more about this position. We did know about the company as you're trying to talk to them over the phone or on Zoom. It's good. We do know about the job description and the requirements. Good. You may have a question or two in the end of the phone screen, talk about the position or the technology or the future. But then now, moving forward, when you get to meet more engineers or more hiring managers or the hiring manager and get to know more, now prepare more questions to actually really prepare to know about the company itself and where it's going. Now have more questions to know, because now it's getting real and we're getting serious now. We're going to the next stage where we're going to know more, and we want to know if this position really fits into our goals and our values and our, what we're looking for, right? So some of these points really apply on only the face-to-face interviews, such as plan your route. Especially when you used to live in Bay Area, I mean, you really have to plan your route and your time before you go to the interview. Over here, rehearse the interview and the information and the technology that you work on, as we talked about. Rehearse those. Get solid references. Use references as to use to your interview, such as whether they're personal references or documentation or education references, online, digital references. Have references ready to use and present and talk about if you get asked about them. Okay. All right. Of course, bring your own documentation that needed. Dress for the part. This is all just cosmetics, things that you need to do, but really powerful in the interview. Arrive early. Now, here's the chance for you, as we talked about, all this huge profile on LinkedIn. Now you get the chance to sell yourself and sell your experience. Not in your resume, not in your cover letter, not in your phone screening. That's the time. Now you're actually spending an hour with each one of these hiring managers, engineers. Now it gets more chance to talk about each one of those points. Ask questions, and then in the end, really you need to follow up. You need to follow up with the hiring committee that hired you. When I interview, I always send a thank you email to everybody who interviewed me, if I can get a chance. If I can't, I will send to the recruiter only, tell them, say thank you to so-and-so person for interviewing, thank you for doing it, and hopefully we'll move forward to the next step and see what's next. That's fine. Just follow up is really good to do, always. Okay. All right. Now, there are some details comes to the in-person interviews right now. So, for example, this is kind of repeated information, just more detailed in the context of the in-person interview. So check out what the interviewer or the employer looking for. Why is this? These are the questions I ask about. Why this position open? Why now? Did someone get fired? Someone left the company? Did you open a new department? Why this position right now? Just get to know more, right? Unless sometimes they mention it from the get-go. They tell you, we are opening a new system, and then so when you get to know. If you don't have that answer, ask it, right? Why are you looking for someone for this role? Okay, what's the goal of this position? What type of individuals you want, right? Who you look really fits in this. Of course, you ask that question if you already emphasized and talked about your values from the job description that we talked about right before. Okay? All right, now, and of course, how to do research on a company. Make sure you do the research. Sometimes I mentioned before, where some people come to me, the company they're interviewing, they have no clue what my company does. They only know a couple of products. But what is this company? What's the culture? What's the live there? It's good for you to know, to understand how this company is. It will give you a more clear idea when you interview, what values, what questions to ask about. Okay, now, as part of selling yourself, selling your experience during the interview, you need to come prepared with stories about each stage of your work. Example, if I ask each and every one of you, go to your profile, your resume, whether you're fresh graduate and your journey through study, or you are working for a long time, go to and grab from your experience one story worth to mention. Just pick one story that actually presents a value and your value and your strength from your experience, right? And then grab another story from your achievements, what you achieved so far. So having those stories prepared, they're going to be really valuable in the in-person interview, because when we interview candidates, with like 3 or 4 of us, one of the interview usually is a soft interview, not technical. It's the hiring manager trying to see if you fit in the culture, fit in the team, and what's your personality. It has nothing to do with your technical. It's all personality interviews, about an hour or 45 minutes. So this is where those stories will shine. This is where the stories are going to add value for who you are and how you sell yourself to the hiring manager, right? So have this experiences story or more. Have the achievements more. Projects, tasks, duties, and demonstrate what are the results and that you achieved and presented to the to the company in your role or that specific role. Okay? One of the things really good to mention is a situation happened to you, right? And then what are the action steps you did, and what's the results came from that? And it doesn't have to be always positive, focused on your results. You could be only a contributor to that results and still really done. Maybe your part is done. I worked on a project. I mentioned in one of the interviews. Project is great. There was a situation. We worked on it so hard, and we solved that part. The project failed later. It's fine. But that part I mentioned. And I mentioned it failing, all that stuff, because it's value for you. It's value your hard work itself, right? You're shining your work. That's what matters the most. Okay. So have relevant stories, as we talked about. Become prepared. A lot of times I get candidates and I ask them a question about something and they don't have anything to share, basically. Besides technical, coding and technical, but there's nothing, no stories to share because they don't really practice those things. Okay? Be brief, of course, with your answers, okay? And focus on the value and things that related to the position, okay? That's why I said in the beginning, practice in front of the mirror if you have to, right? To kind of practice those stories. You have a story in mind, you know exactly what you want to say. You'll be surprised if you stand in front of the mirror and try to say it to yourself. And you'll find yourself stuttering here and there, and you forgot that point, and then you want to put this before the other one. And so that practice, at least once or twice, will actually set your mind and give you confidence. Now I can talk about it more freely, more confident during the interview. Okay. Prepare meaningful questions. I think it's small, but those are samples to question, samples you can question or ask the interviewers over here. Okay? So for example, how are you going to evaluate my performance? Can you tell me about the day-to-day responsibilities in this position? There's so many. I'm going to share those slides with you over here. But there are some samples of questions you can ask if they're related to your interest and related to your position, what you're looking for, right? There are a lot of good questions. If you have something really you want to know about the company, ask that. Focus on those. Or about the position, or the team, or the growth in the company, or what are the next step? What's the feedback? Well, all these type of questions. There's so many. I'm going to share with you those, inshallah. Okay. Be flexible and accommodating. Don't say, I'll get back to you. Don't expect when the interviewer asks you something you don't know. But I'm talking about not technical part. I'm talking about yourself or what you're going to do, or more soft skills. Don't say, I don't know, I'll get back to you. Come prepared. Come always prepared for these soft questions, for the question about yourself, your career, your personality, your experience, your accomplishment, right? Technical is different, right? What do you know about this code? You either know, you don't know, it's fine, right? But what you're looking for, what's your experience, has to be prepared. Always be prepared, okay? All right. Of course, show them whatever they're willing to do, whatever it takes to get to this position, to get this position. Okay. Now, also, of course, use his or her language when you speak to them, right? They spoke to you. You already know their language as they mentioned in the job description. And when you spoke with them during the interview, you have an idea what are the buzzwords, the key words that they're looking for. Try to use those into your privilege, to your advantage. Okay? Here, yeah, I was same thing, slide for this. So use your language. So in the job description, the highlight words over here, be reflective of that interview. Okay. Fit to be invited into their culture, and be, of course, be adaptive and be mirroring their values or job description. I'm not trying to ask you to be munafiq, to say things that doesn't match. Make sure they match with your values. A lot of things happen that they really match with your values, just don't know how to say them, how to represent them, how to say them back, right? So That's where practice come in play. That's where practice come, where you need to read to practice about the job description and all the talks we talked about. Okay. Okay. So these are some information to use. Ask clear questions, follow-up questions. If you freeze, ask. This is really relevant to our sisters. If you freeze in the interview, ask. It's not good to freeze in the interview, not brain freeze, right? Not to know what to do. It's okay if you don't know. It's okay if you get confused. It's okay. But practice and confidence through the practice all this time gives you the ability to, when you get to that point, for any reason, ask questions. What are the questions? Clear questions. Clarify more. They ask you questions, you don't know what to do, or you get confused, ask questions back. Ask question, what do you mean? What's next? And what are you heading? What are exactly you looking for? What's the part you are interested in? So ask questions, don't freeze, don't ramble on, right? Don't just talk. Because a lot of time when you get asked a question and you know what to answer, people start just rambling, right? Just say things, and that is really bad in the interview. It reflects really negative. It's better freeze not to ramble, right? So, but also you can practice yourself not to freeze, always. Okay? Of course, don't get emotional. Emotion in an interview is a big flag, right? So, same thing. Getting emotional in an interview is lack of practice for interviews, right? We'll talk in the end of this about this part. Okay? Now, one of the key things to help you in the interview is the first 60 seconds. The first 60 seconds of your interview is the majority, or is the ice-breaking big majority of your interview, how this is going to go. So that's why you need to practice, be prepared. So the more confident, the more prepared, the more practice, the first 1 minute conversation, introduction, and get down and talk about something, that 60 seconds, it will set the stone for the whole interview for you. I'm saying 60 seconds, it could be more or less, but in general, that introduction part is key. So practice that part, practice that greeting. I know a lot of candidates, especially our sisters, they already comes by personality very shy, right? So when they come in to interview, they wait for the interviewer to ask them. They wait for interviewer to ask them what they need and what to solve. Whether they should be, where you interact right away in the first 6 seconds. You're okay later in the interview to relax, take a step back, and answer questions only. But that first 1 minute conversation, it will break all the ice. It will set the whole interview for you, right? Once that's done, you're good to go. Okay. Always, we said, win the first 60 seconds. Plan your opening responses. For any response, plan the responses for you. Okay. Of course, work with the questions hands-on. Now, going to an interview is like dating, basically. The secret of the hiring managers, when they go to interview, they're hoping that it will work out. By the way, just for you to know, and this is not something a lot of people know. When a candidate goes to interview, let's say I ask you this. When you go to an interview, what do you think the hiring manager experienced before it got to you? Who knows? What do you think the hiring manager coming to interview you, his experience before it come to you? For this position, I'm talking about the position.
You expect to close the position.
Okay. Why you think? So the reason I'm asking, maybe my question is not clear, but I'm trying, let me clear it out. Most of the hiring managers right now, not all, but most of the positions hiring manager right now, their secret in the interview, hoping to close this interview. We're talking about stage 2 interview right now. You already finished the resume screening and finished, right? You already finished the phone screening and the Zoom call. You are now in the position where the second or third interview position. The hiring manager desperate to hire you. They're not going through all this journey and stop to reject you right now. They're in a position, they've been working on this for like 3 weeks, right? For this interviewing how many people, who knows, when then got to you. So they're desperate to hire you. So use that for your benefit. Use that as you talk. When you come prepared, when I'm trying to be interviewing 3-4 people, and then one of them come prepared with all my job description, all the details, and have the cover letter and everything, and answers questions, it will forgive you from some mistakes in your technical interview. That prepared and that personality and that position now, it's higher and stronger for you than others. It will shine for you than others. Because I am, as a hiring manager, I've been working on there for 3 weeks, been trying to interview people. I get to the 3rd stage of interviews with you or my team. Now I'm really trying to close this. I hope this guy is good. That's the secret of all of hiring manager when they get to this stage 3 or stage 2 of the interviews. So it's like dating, right? It's like trying to get to know, and I hope this date works out. That's it, right? Been trying to get to know each other for a while. Now we're trying to, lock the deal. So they are really searching for the one. Be that one in that stage of that interview, right? All right, here we go, yeah. Let them know what you want for the job. Be enthusiastic and passionate. Be specific. Don't be general. Be very specific about the subjects you talk about. That's what will help you if you come prepared with the job description. When you have the job description and the whole thing been set up as we talked about, all your answers will be specific because you're already actually addressing the keyword and buzzword that they're looking for, right? They're not going to talk about in general anymore. A lot of candidates come in and talk in general. Oh, I know this programming thing and I worked on this and looked at that. How you solve this, to start talking general things. But if you know the job description, you come prepared, you know exactly what the hiring manager wants. So be very specific what you answer. That will immediately give you higher rank in the hiring. Be alive in the interview. Be active, alive, smiling. I have no clue how many candidates I interviewed. They look dead. They look like they're really not happy to be here. Even if they're happy, it doesn't show, right? They're like really, not active, and shoulders. And you have no clue how it matters in the interview when we do face-to-face interviews. It tells me about you, because the moment I leave the interview room as a hiring manager, I close the door, the first question comes to my head, do I want to work with this person? Do I want to work with this person? Because he's going to be working with me. We may stay here for 5 years, 3 years. We'll be sitting together. We'll have lunch together. We'll work with the team. I'll be passing tasks to them. Count on them on my calls and my work and my duties and my schedule. Do I really want to work with this person? That matters to me as a hiring manager. So be alive in the interview so people can accept you immediately to add you into their part of their team, to add you to their team. Oh boy, this question. How many times get asked this question? What do you consider your weaknesses? This question comes a lot, especially in the tech companies. Happens. You gotta know 2 things in the consider your weaknesses. One and most important things, your weaknesses does not equal or not your personality. I get this a lot. When I ask question, this candidate say, what do you think your weaknesses are? And they would answer me like, what was it? I'm kind of take my time, kind of slow as I code. Take my time, right? It's a weakness. So, okay. So what else? Or sometimes be, what are your weaknesses? Or I am. What they tell me? What they'd say? Pay a very good attention to details. I'm really, really hardcore on details. Okay. What are your weaknesses? Well, I don't have life. I work all the time. I'm a workaholic. Right? I'm trying to see. They say that because they think this is good, positive. It's like they tell them like the positive, negative, right? They just say negative, but it actually turns the job positive. And that's a problem for us. When you tell me you pay attention, like very hardcore on details, this is not a skill anymore. This is not a way. This is personality. This is not something I can change in you. This is a negative point on you right now. I don't want to see that weakness in my team, right? So this is very bad situation. A workaholic, you work all the time, workaholic. Well, this is not a strength. You being workaholic is not a strength. Life balance makes a big difference in the teams and in the companies right nowadays. So you need to, or this is we call it the strength in disguise. Like they say I'm workaholic, so it's kind of like trying to show that they have a strength, but it's not. So make sure that question is never be answered about something that represents your personality or who you are. What are your weaknesses? You have to put that answer in a context. It's okay if you're workaholic. It's okay if you code slow. It's okay if you pay attention to details. But put them in a context. Example, well, we had an issue on one project that really required us to deliver on a tight schedule. So we worked workaholic. I worked so hard at that time, like day and night to deliver it. And I noticed in myself, I was a workaholic at that time because I didn't know that before. Or I noticed myself, I needed more time to code slowly. Or I paid so much details that other colleagues of mine pointed out for me. It's okay. Now to me as a hiring manager, that's a weakness. I don't want you to be workaholic in my projects. But now I relate that you workaholic in that context only, not all the time as you work for me, right? Or work with me. You put it in a context. If you have a weakness you want to address for this question, put it in a specific context. Because now we can put boundaries around that context. I'll make sure as a hiring manager, try not to put you in that context until you learn how to get out of it. See what I mean? So here, I think I have it in the next slide. Here we go. Here, this is by someone called Linda Rainier. She put together nice, I'll share the links of YouTube for her, put together these type of sentences that represents this weaknesses scenario, right? Which is here, I would say, in a situation where, now you want to mention a situation, a context, right? Insert a context over there. I have tend to what? Now insert, what's the exhibit? What's the weakness led to? Where it comes from? Okay, the weakness, it's not the weakness itself, it's just where it's coming from, right? What caused to appear or represent that weakness for you, okay? Then it made me appear. It made me look like or appear. Now you can mention the specific weakness you have in yourself, okay? As a result, I learned. So you have to mention, I'm not going to continue all that. You have to mention the context, what happened, where the weakness happened in the surface, and then what are the next steps to solve it. It doesn't matter if you solve it totally. What are the next steps, the journey you took as you get out of that getting out of that weakness. Even though if it's not solved, at least now I know the whole picture. What's your weakness? And where does it stop? What are the boundaries of it? And then I understand what's something I should avoid when I work with you, or try to help you to avoid when you work with me. Okay? I can pause to have any questions here. Because this section now finishes the interview process. I want to make sure I try to answer questions about your interest or interview process right now. Any questions?
You have a time check, like 20 minutes?
20 minutes. So I'm not going to finish the third session, which is the interviewer session, but I'm going to finish the next one, which is here, the negotiation. Yes? Yes?
You mentioned you enter a lot of interviews, you sell yourself so nice, and you're not really looking for the job, but
Yeah.
you're waiting for the practice.
Yes.
But he gave you the job.
Yes.
So what do you do?
Well, depends on your situation here, basically, right? So it depends why you're interviewing, right? What you do. But if you are really looking for change, now you check your situation, why you interviewed, why you choose that company. Because even if you interview for practice, there should be a purpose. We talked about at the beginning, right? Why, the goals of your interview, with the motive, right? Are you looking for specific new technology that you're looking for? For example, let's say you are a platform engineer for a very long time. You're really trying to get into AI, right? Recently, a lot of self-driving cars or AI, right? You learned yourself, you have no experience at all, right? You've been working for 10 years for different platforms, totally non-related, and you're trying to jump into some interviews to get to know more about that genre, right? That area. Now you get to a point, you got someone who's interested right now in you. Now, do you want to pursue or not? That comes to you, right? So put your goals, as we talked about, the motives and goals, those will drive you into the next steps. And we'll talk about this in the end about taking a job or not, right? Inshallah, we'll get to the point trying to, raise the time right now here. Negotiation. Let's say you got accepted, you're good to go. You get to the point where, okay, let's negotiate the salary. Let's negotiate the compensation for you. What do you do? What are the tips and tricks for you to know how to negotiate a higher salary or a starting salary for you? Well, definitely you need to talk about your value to this position, right? They hire you for your work. Try to represent your value for this position, what you're bringing on the table, okay? Do the market research, of course. What does this position pay in general with your position, your experience? And of course, never give a range. You have no clue how many times recruiters asked me, how much you want to get paid? I say, between this and that. They're definitely going to go with the first one. That's for sure. Never give a range. Always be very specific. So that's why you need to study the market, be very specific about what you want with the number, okay? Because now when you have a number down, you can go back and forth, talk about it, okay? Go in with leverage. So get more offers, show them what you're getting paid right now, right? So try to get leverage if you can, right? Time it appropriately, where if you're looking for a raise or you're looking for a higher demanded salary in the market right now, try to time when is it really high demanded, which time of the year, which time of, which companies that are really looking for, really desperate for them. So time that if you can, between the raise and the salary, the time matters a lot. Of course, be humble and polite, but still confident. So it's okay to stay humble and polite as you asked for your salary, but stay confident with your request. Now, if you're looking for a specific salary, what you're looking for trying to do, there's a question that always comes in my mind to ask everyone. If I ask you, how much would you worth? How much you think you're worth for that company, for that position? What do you think? If I ask you, if I come to you, you said, I want to work for this company, and I told you, okay, how much you think you're worth for that company? What would you answer? As high as possible. Good answer. But is it realistic with the market research? That matter, right? So yeah, market research. Any other answer?
How much that company pays for those positions, the research?
Good. It could be not the industry, it could be that company particularly, right? So a lot of companies out there that pays, for example, I'll give you an example. Front-end engineers get paid $120,000, $150,000 in the Bay Area. Netflix give them $300,000. But only Netflix. So you see what I mean? So you have to do the research, right? You have to do the research why they do that and what's their, motive and all that. So that's good. So there's a market research and there's a company research, right? So you worth based on that research, right? What I say to a lot of people when they ask me this question, you worth how much you ask. It doesn't matter. I have a lot of engineers who got hired higher than the limit should be, just because they asked for it and we want them. If you do the research and you know the company pays, of course within reason, right? If you know the company pays for this position between 150 to 170, or 120 to 150 a year, right? But for your situation and for you to move to this area, for you to take this position, less than 180 you won't consider, right? It's either one of two. You're going to walk out from the whole thing. You're not going to go forward. Or you can ask for 180, and you know they may come after you, basically, right? But ask him for that, specifically, we said never say a range, ask him for that number, then negotiate from there. That will put your value to them and how to negotiate and work with them. So you worth what you ask, but within reason, okay? This is very key when you negotiate your salary or your income, with them. And it depends from person to another. Where are you looking for the for the whole package? You're looking for a certain salary. As I mentioned, for example, Netflix pays really well their engineers and employees, but in the other hand, they never offer anything, no stocks, no benefits, nothing, besides, of course, medical. Everything is like cut. Where other companies, no, they give you, for example, 120 base, and they give you another 100 stocks, and so each company is different. Look at the whole package and see if that fits you. Some people matter to them is the monthly salary. I don't care about that. I need pay my bills. I need the monthly salary. That matters to me the most than giving me some revenue right now and get them in 5 years. I don't want that right now. Good. That's your situation. But others, though they're established, they want to have more future. So that works. Do the research. That matters the most. Do the research well about the market and the company itself that you're trying to get hired. Okay? Okay. I'm going to pray in. I'll talk a little bit about the next section, but here is the final of this section. Interview. This is really important to build your confidence in the interview. I had many friends and relatives. They come to me and they ask me, they work in a company, and they ask me, should I work for Apple? They ask me that question. So my first response to them is like, what's the offer? What offer you got that to consider yes or no? This is no, I'm still interviewing. I'm like, why are you asking me? Why are you asking me if you should work for that company? Did they offer you something? This is the issue a lot of people out there right now. They get the call from a company, and at that moment they think, should I go interview or not? Should I continue with that journey or not? But they never offered you something. You may go all the end and they give you offer you cannot refuse. But you should not make a decision before you start the journey, right? On a phone call or a contact from a recruiter. I see that all the time. A lot of people, they get, position in this company, that company, X, Y, Z, and then you get cherry picking. Oh, I want to go interview here. I don't want this. I don't like them. I don't want to go commute to San Francisco. I don't want to go. So you start filtering those. And then from 10 positions people call them, they pick 2 to interview and then get accepted any of them. Because there are only 2 now, from 10 to 2. Well, I always tell everyone, keep interviewing, especially with the fresh graduates and engineers. You're going to mess up a lot. It's okay. You have no clue how embarrassing interviews I did. It's crazy how things happen. But the more I interviewed, the more I learned and got notes to know how to interview for the next one. I get this rule always. I tell my friends and relatives from this rule. Interview 20 times and sign the contract on the 20th job. Refuse all the others even if they give you a job. That's what I tell them. Go interview 20 companies and sign the contract on the number 20. Even if they offer you one before, just practice and go. Because it's unlikely for you to get the offer before. If you did and you like it, well, you land. That's it. That's a win. But if not, don't close the doors for yourself to learn how to interview and practice in the market. Because as we mentioned, in the industry right now, things are moving very fast. Every year, new standards, new technologies comes out, new laws comes out for different industries that whatever you interviewed before may not be relevant anymore this year, right? So keep interviewing as you go through your journey. Keep interviewing all the time. It doesn't matter. Keep interviewing even if you fit 20%. Sometimes I get calls from recruiters and I look at the job description and I don't know why they call me. Like obviously I don't fit in this position. But I still try to get to know. Okay, let's do a phone interview. At least a phone. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. Can relate to this, maybe just a little bit different because we work for the state, right? So I cut myself short by not interviewing, or I go research the office that I'm going to. How is the management style? Is it a relaxed environment or not? Is that something healthy to do? Because you know, right there and then, you can find out, yeah, it is a friendly environment, it's a nice culture, I can fit in. Or no, it's a high stress micromanagement and stuff like this, you know what, I don't wanna go to the interview. But I find myself that I'm cutting myself short from a lot of interviews just because I'm in a relaxed office. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm enjoying
Makes sense.
my time. But I find it prevents me from interviewing, or I cut myself short. I
Sure.
don't know if that's something good to do or bad.
I'll give you an answer to my knowledge so far to these positions, to these situations. It really depends on your position and if that management is the most important, is the most thing that related to your profession. For example, let's say it this way. If I'm a I'm a technical person. So to me, when I interview, I'd love to know what other technical questions they keep asking me all the time in the industry, right? If they accept me, then I look, okay, how's the team, how's the management, how's everything else? Because before then, there's nothing, I don't have to worry about it because that's my position, right? My field. Your field could be the management is everything, the team is everything, the environment is the key to you. So when you interview, through the interview process, your questions are these type of questions, right? The questions about the management and the team and other things they use. So it's up to you how you want to deal with those with that interview. Good.
So let me, is it okay in the interview to ask, and I saw it in a previous slide, what kind of culture that you have in the office? But most likely they're going to say, yeah, we have a good culture.
Absolutely, absolutely. But ask for details. That's the thing. You ask for details.
Internal context is the
Yeah.
best way to
So when I say what's the culture for the company or the state office, or that, when I say what exactly the details on the culture when you talk about, or what are you talking about? Are you talking about holidays and events and the team collaboration and meetings and goals you achieve? You know, so be more specific in your questions to know more about the culture, right? Knowing the culture in general, as you mentioned, everybody will answer you, oh, we have amazing culture. It's like, everybody great here. We have bean bags and coffee, right? So it's like, yeah, right? So it's a culture, right? Everybody has their own culture. But be specific on your questions. What are you interested in those cultures? That's why I said, that's why I said, come prepared with your questions. Of course, all that come and play or build up from all what we talked about so far. It didn't, those questions aren't gonna come just like that out of the blue. It built up, right? You check the job description, you research on the state and the company and the teams. If you know someone there you can ask about. You interviewed the phone screening, you had a chance to talk about more about the technical and the needs for the position. We talked about the keyword and the buzzword to be used at the interview and what they're interested in, what's good to have. So when you get to that point, I'm sure most of your questions already been addressed before you get to the main question. You still can elaborate and ask more later and get to more to be more specific to make a decision. And the decision making is after acceptance. That's the very important key here. After you get an acceptance, that's the decision you make. That's okay, now I have an offer. Should I join them or not? Before the offer, no decisions need to be made here. You're still trying to get the offer, right? You may need that offer really crucial because you want to use it to go somewhere else, to use it as leverage. We talked about the leverage, right? So it matters. That offer matters. Not the company matters. The offer matters. No. So don't make a decision turning down interviews or positions unless you're 100% like job in San Francisco, right? You know what it is, right? But I'm saying don't turn down any offer before any position before you get the offer first. Once you have the offers on the table, now you can cherry pick and choose. You may not accept any of them and go back to the same journey. It's fine, but at least now you know. You practice the interview. You know now, in the industry right now, what are they looking for? What are the questions asked around? What's the best practices? What's the really high demand in the market right now? So we're gonna set you up to the next job search. You may change the whole job search right now.
One more question.
Yes.
Is it okay to, for example, at the interview, to ask a question, for example, what are the characteristics of the person that you're looking for? Take their answer and turn it around and say, hey, well, this is me, but you know, you could address it.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I mentioned it here.
Oh,
I had it on the list right here, right? So,
I came in late.
huh? Here, I mentioned one of those questions. I think it's what are the person you're looking for? I think right here. Okay, yeah. What are here? So it is important. You know, who you looking for? And then, by the way, before they answer you, probably you have, I would say, 50 or 70% of the answer already, because you already read the job description. You already know what they're looking for. You already have the buzzwords they're interested in from the recruiter and hiring manager. You already have an idea, and they will confirm it with their answer to you based on that question, and then you can use that. Because before you come to them, you already modified your resume with the job description information they wanted, right? So they definitely have an idea also about you, or they already formed an idea about you before you come into the interview. We already have, I think, 3 minutes, right? All right, so I think I'm going to end here. Last session, usually I do is the how to interview a candidate. So I try to put you in the shoes of an interviewer to get you more details of how we think as interviewers, companies can use that for your leverage. But I think we can end here today, inshallah. We can do a follow-up session for that, how to interview, inshallah, and maybe add more quick Q&A session for everything we talked about. Inshallah, we'll share those slides with you through email. Definitely stay connected through the email, and everyone here, inshallah. We talked about building network will help you always to find a job and increase your chances. And yeah, that's it. And jazakumullahu khairan. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is it okay to reach out to you?
Definitely, I will.
Like,
Yeah,
people are in different situations, then I can suggest, you know what?
definitely.